Have you ever been ordered to evacuate because of a natural disaster or some other emergency situation? It doesn't matter where you live, there is some kind of potential disaster that you should have your family prepared for. Consider this scenario. The sun is setting, the wind is picking up, and the news is reporting an impending hurricane. Suddenly, a mandatory evacuation order comes. What would you do? Take the story of John, a resident of New Orleans. He found himself in exactly this situation during Hurricane Katrina. With only a few hours to spare, he had to choose what to take and what to leave behind. It was a frantic, stressful situation, compounded by the fact that John was not prepared. He had no bug-out bag. Or consider Emily, who lived near the Fukushima nuclear power plant when the 2011 earthquake and tsunami hit Japan. She was at work when the quake hit. The tsunami warning followed, then the news of the nuclear meltdown. Emily had a bug-out bag at home, but she wasn't there. While Emily was better prepared than John, her preps did her no good in the end, as they weren't with her. These are real-life stories of people who found themselves needing to bug out during emergencies. They are not alone. Many of us would be caught just as unprepared if disaster struck. Now imagine a different scenario. The same hurricane is coming, the same evacuation order is issued, but this time you are prepared. You have a bug-out bag filled with essential items to sustain you for at least 72 hours. By having a bug-out bag already packed and staged, you have removed one of the most stressful parts of evacuation, figuring out what to take. While your evacuation is not stress-free, no evacuation could be, but it is manageable. You are prepared. This is the power of a bug-out bag. It's not just a bag, it's a lifeline in a crisis. It's the difference between panic and preparedness, between chaos and calm. Having a bug-out bag is not about living in fear. It's about being ready for whatever life throws at you. It's about knowing that, even in the worst situations, you have the tools to survive. But this is an important reminder. Bugging out should be a last resort. It is always preferable in an emergency to bug in, which means to stay put only if it's safe to do so. Evacuation is disruptive and dangerous. It's always better to stay in a familiar environment if you can. But sometimes, you can't. Sometimes the hurricane comes, the earthquake hits, the train full of toxic materials derails. And when it does, you want to be ready. You want to have your bug-out bag ready because often you only have minutes to flee. So ask yourself, are you prepared for an emergency evacuation and ready to leave with minutes' notice? If not, it's time to start thinking about your bug-out bag and plan to evacuate. It's time to start thinking about your family's survival. Because when disaster strikes, the most important thing you can have is a plan that you have practiced enough that it becomes second nature.